And we're live once again from downtown Mill Bay. We were here-ish. Where were we at? I think we were further than that. Where were we at?
I think we're right there.
Chemical structure. Excellent. We're going to add some notes.
Can I have the notes from last class? I was here.
There was no notes handed out in last class. Same notes it's been for weeks, or a couple weeks. The ones that talk about Darwin on the front. I believe you got it last day. I am now out of extra copies because everybody keeps losing their. I've taken all the extra copies. I will have to send you one if you can't find it, unless someone has an extra copy. Because I print way more than I need, and I am officially out, I believe.
That's a good idea, dude. Flowers do fine.
Yeah, I know. But then at some point, like, you know, it's the name of time. Why are there people on their phones? Pablo, class has started. Phone in there. There's only 4 phones in here. Can everybody please bring the phone? And we call it the Pablo rule. If I see someone out on their phone, that means everybody has to hand in their phone. I can't ignore it once I see it. Wait,
What?
yes?
Yeah, over the weekend.
Yeah, what is that?
I have to. My dad was sick for the meeting.
I will send them an email. If you over it, I'll email from you to you along.
I feel like fun enough to go there.
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
tough, Oliver.
1, 2, 3.
That's so tough.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I need 3 more cell phones. Well, 2 more, because Julian, I know, has lost
I'm
it.
using the bathroom. They went to the bathroom.
I need actually now 4 more because 2 people have just arrived. Cell phones, please.
That's kind.
That might be entirely true. You have yours. Excellent. So we're down 2.
I've never been
1, 2, 3, 4.
I went to breakfast. I failed inspection.
They came along.
He like hit me on the chin. Just now.
We still have people who have not put in their cell phones.
What's your pot?
Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3 now.
Hey, there's nothing there.
What are you chattering about? What are you chattering?
Zach hasn't told you before.
I'm adjusting my tab. Yeah. It's
10. I'm missing 2 cell phones.
It's skin color.
What? I'm missing 1 cell phone. Yes?
I lost mine.
I'm not missing any cell phones.
Sun will come out.
Okay, if you could, we wrote those down last day. Add in the notes, and I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to put up the ones that already have notes, simply because I want to be able to go quickly. You have an assignment at the end, and I don't want to take up too much time.
These other extras out of the way.
Let's go. Hold it, you can't. 'Cause I
Oh,
gotta
that-
send-
is that-
Oh, no, what I'll do, I'll send the email on my phone.
Are we leaking the email here?
Pardon?
Are we leaking your email?
All right, let's turn this back on.
We are live.
No, I mean, email titles can give away stuff. I don't want to put an email that's going streaming out. It says something on the top like, you know, so-and-so was doing heroin in the common room.
What?
Roger's house is closed. Not to start any rumors, really. Yeah?
Adrian does heroin.
Pardon? You need to find this the page that's on the board. That's where we're at.
This one.
Zach should have it.
I did not.
Everyone
You got a copy? Take out a piece of line paper, write down everything you remember. You can share it after. Anders, you should tell me, you're getting ready. You get a piece of line paper if you don't have the handout. Just get ready to go. You can transfer it to your handout when you find it.
No, I think I'm looking for this one.
It's a little old now. I know that everybody's got it down by now. There, see? You found it.
Charles Darwin.
It's got Darwin on the cover. You'll find it. I trust you.
It's like Darwin taking a pen.
Regardless, I don't have any more copies, and I have to get more copies for later.
I was watching, I haven't got it. It lagged, and it skipped.
Jennifer, show me.
Cultural influence. You know, so. Really?
Where are you at?
Anders. It's then you get a piece of lined paper.
I got it.
Yeah, okay, but not talking to each other, getting that down.
Smells like a book.
Youth.
Okay, health center's now emailed. Okay, every organism has a job to survive. It's called its niche, not its niche. Natural selection results in organisms fitting in. We did this last day. And there's a process called adaptation. As I've been going through, I've been using the same notes, so we've been adding to them the whole time. Chemical change inside of cells. Last class suggested lactose tolerance. As a mutation, that would be a chemical change. You'd never see it in the structure of the organism. However, you might see it in the behavior. All of a sudden you notice that a population you're investigating is keeping cattle, and they seem to be drinking milk. So you might also see behavioral changes. You also see these in animals like migration and hibernation. You can also have structural or anatomical changes like losing a tail. Can someone think of another example that would fit in one of those categories? Yeah.
Wait, I have an idea. Like chameleons change colors when they're.
That is a structure they already have. So what I'm looking for is something that may happen to a creature that causes a change over time. So what is an example of an adaptive change? The evolution of changing colors would be a chemical change. That allows them to blend into their environment.
Say for the wolves, if the rabbit population disease comes through, most of them die out, the wolves would have to find some new food source. Would that be a new food
Yes, but which kind of change are you talking about?
behavioral with hunting patterns?
Sure. Do you have an example?
No.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an example. So like migration is an example of an evolved change. Like similar, winter comes, it's a bad environment, and the behavioral changes, we just go somewhere else. In fact, there's always food plentiful in the south. Why do the birds come here ever? It's summer all year round. Yeah.
Temperature and mating.
Well, the temperature down there is also fine. Like, they don't have to come here for the temperature. They do come here to mate. You're getting very close. Yes?
I don't know the answer, but can you go over a bit?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. Predation. There's a lot of creatures down there that would eat their eggs. So when they come here, just for the summer, they weren't here all winter. There's not nearly the same amount of predators. And so they can lay their eggs and raise their young in a little bit more safety. We're actually a safe zone in many ways. And so it's a behavioral change to take advantage of the more plentiful food, warmer weather, and safer environment. And then they go back down south for the winter because all the food leaves. Fewer and fewer of them are doing that. That we now are getting more year-round birds that used to go around. We're a little too warm in the summer than we used to be. I think from 10 years ago, spring is now a full month earlier. We seem to change about 3 days a year, give or take. And so they're adapting to that change as well. So we have a behavioral change. Wolves could certainly change their hunting. Oh, I know an example. Not wolves, though. It's lions. All of a sudden, lions started hunting elephants. We didn't used to hunt elephants, and then one pack figured out a behavioral method that did, and that is one of them leaps on top of the elephant and starts clawing and eating. You're never going to get through to kill the elephant. But it drives the elephant so insane because of the pain and something on it that the other ones can just keep at the elephant until finally it's exhausted and then they can kill it off. So it's a rather complex hunting behavior and now that is spread to other prides of lions.
Oh, what does that say? Lactose.
Tolerance.
Oh, and evolution and what?
Chameleon. Obviously. As long as you have an example, Someone in another class also proposed walking on two legs. That's a behavioral change. Apes can walk on two legs. Bears can walk on two legs. And at some point in our evolution, we just decided that was better. It gave us hands to do stuff with. Apes will do the same thing when they need to use their hands. The only difference is the amount.
Also, like, you know the monkeys who hang out where the tourists are because they give them food?
Mm-hmm.
That's also...
That's a behavioral change. We know that food is here, and one of the reasons they say things like in parks, don't feed the ducks, is not just because the ducks get fat with diabetes, because we're giving them white bread and that's not very good for the ducks, but also you can encourage them with food that they won't leave for the winter. And then when the tourism dries up, they're stuck in the middle of winter here, and they're not going to survive the flight south. They just die on the way there. And so we can change your behavior through our interference. Okay. Special adaptation. A single species arrives in a new environment. That's called adaptive radiation. Often it will take up all the niches in that environment. The Galapagos finches is an example. Darwin went to the Galapagos Islands famously, and he found all these birds. Like this is a robin, this is a lark, this is the type of bird that eats small nuts, this is the type of bird that eats large nuts, this is the type of bird that eats little fish in streams and ponds. They're all different birds, and he would label them, robin, lark, duck, and then he would send them back home, and then the person at the other end is going, this is a finch, this is a finch, this is a finch, this is a finch. They're all finches that had adapted that looked like different birds because the environment itself changed what they were. And it turns out, if you were good at picking out fish from a river, then you need a certain type of beak, and you start looking like that type of bird. You don't look like a finch anymore. And so a couple breeding pairs got blown to the Galapagos Islands, and then they radiated out and then started different, one started just evolving to fit all the particular niches. Julie? Head should not be in. Sitting, notes out, pen out.
Hey.
Hey, Julie, I got you.
Wow, thank you, Anders.
No worries.
We don't need conversations about it every time. Oh, sorry, I just realized I just moved on. I didn't ask. Yes?
Do you know why Darwin actually cared enough to be sending all of these birds back home? Was there something special about it, or he was just...
He liked it. It was fun. He wanted to be a naturalist. He was interested in science. Science for a long time was a rich person's profession because you had to have time to do your experiments and not be working in the coal mines or something. And so it was a respectable thing to do. He had an active mind and just he thought it was fun. I mean, he went on a voyage around the world for the experience and collected animals where he went. And stuffing animals once you got home and labeling them. At this time, there are explorers going all over the world, and they are sending samples back and getting to name the new species and getting very excited. So this is like the first time some people have seen some of these animals. So it's an age of exploration. Whoa. To the Europeans, to the people already living there, it's a bunch of visitors.
What does the first thing in life say?
The first thing in
Galapagos.
Galapagos. Galapagos finches. Galapagos is a chain of islands in the area. There we go. Yes, sir.
Are wolves and dogs like the same thing? They just like evolve so like look different.
Well, wolves is the gray wolf is the common ancestor for
I've
dogs.
seen that one too.
It is dogs are considered a different species, but dog types are not different species. They're all dogs.
So are they like? So what came first?
The wolf.
So. Because there's some dogs that don't look like wolves, like pugs.
Yeah, we're going to do some of those. But it turns out if you have a strong selection pressure, you can very quickly mold things to look like different things. Wolves and dogs are considered different species. They can still interbreed.
What is that?
And a half wolf, half dog is one of the more dangerous creatures we know. Because sometimes they're born and they don't have a fear of humans, and they have a lot of wolf instincts. And a fear of humans for a long time in animals' existence has been a survival technique. If you smell humans, get out of the area, because they're gonna kill you. So they're either their prey or whatever, like, just don't mess with them. And so a lot of predators have learned not to stick around humans. But if you manage to get rid of that, and we did in dogs, that's part of what domestication is. And then if you have a breed in which it has still the wild hunting aspect of instincts, but it doesn't have the instinctual fear of humans, now you have something that considers humans as prey. And there's a lot of humans. There's a lot of really dumb humans that just wander around with no weapons and no idea how to survive in the environment, into forests for fun. And having a bunch of semi-wolves out there that are hunting them, for us is a bad idea, and then we round them up and kill them, and then the ones that don't have that instinct turn out.
Then from what have like the house cats evolved?
From a particular species of Egyptian cat. There's a wild species. All cat species, as far as I'm aware, I may be wrong, I'd have to double check it, I believe came from an Egyptian style of cat. Also, when you breed something, we're going to get a little bit of breeding afterwards, there has to be something there for you to work with. So like if you want a herding dog, well, dogs already have a herding instinct. It's the maternal instinct. You just breed that up. So it was already there. We just really exaggerated it. Cats.
A house cat with a, I don't know, a lynx.
Yeah. Well, cats don't have a herd structure the way dogs do. There's no leader. They're just a warren of individual cats. And so it's been really difficult, even with breeding and domestication, to make cats do jobs, other than just things they want to do, like hunt mice. Getting a cat to fetch is a lot harder than getting a dog to fetch, because dogs will do things on behalf of their leader, whereas cats will do it if they know they're going to get a reward. And so the instinct it's not there as much. You can still get cats to do things, and there's famously cats that'll fetch, but dogs are a lot easier to train to do stuff. Cats, I mean, you could argue they domesticated us. They showed up, ate mice, so they protected our grain, and then we learned to feed them. That was a very good arrangement for the cats. Yeah.
You said earlier that you could breed a house cat and a lynx. Are all female?
Sorry, what?
Yeah,
I didn't say you could breed a house cat to a lynx.
I asked, can you breed a house cat and a lynx? Because you're talking
Oh,
about,
I didn't.
could-
I thought you were asking about a type of cat called a lynx.
Oh, no,
I have no idea if you can breed a house cat to a lynx. I don't know how
you said
full.
wolves and dogs.
Wolves and dogs can
I'm pretty sure
interbreed.
the lynx would just be
Cats are much less.
No. I don't know. I'd have to go check. Yeah, they might be, but I don't know as well. They're part of the feline family. Lions are closer related to cats than wolves are, but I don't know how close. Okay, nope.
My hands been up for so long.
Yeah, but I do have to move on. I'll get you in a moment.
Wow.
I got a good one as well.
And you're still talking and taking up more time. You have an assignment in the end. I do have to maintain the pace to get to the part where you can do the assignment. Almost every species that has ever lived has gone extinct. Natural selection and adaptation are slow and continuous. Our environments are constantly changing. Currently, they're warming, for example. And even if the environment wasn't changing, everything is constantly trying to adapt and evolve. If you were a predator, then the fact that the gazelle runs is really irritating. So you're going to evolve to run faster so you can catch your dinner. The gazelle is going to evolve to run faster because for it, it's a matter of life and death. And so you're going to constantly be in this arms race. Eventually, you're going to hit a point where perhaps no new mutation is easy to make you run faster. But there's still going to be new little tricks, new little diseases, new little adaptations from creatures that are going to make some changes. Mutations introduce the new alleles. These give new traits, and over time, if you get enough new alleles, you get a new species. When I talk about, in the previous one, it having a niche and they're well adapted, it can really look like a complex machine. You know, the birds keep down the insects to a reasonable level. The worms are churning up the ground and making sure that the wood is digested and broken up into fertilizer. The wolves are keeping down the deer population. Disease is keeping down the wolf population. So everything's in a perfect balance. But nothing has a job. Nothing is supposed to be there. It just works. It works because it adapted together. It works in the same way that a pond perfectly fits, the water perfectly fits the bottom. It just flows in. Nature is a way of flowing in, and if it for some reason doesn't fit anymore, then it just dies out. It's not right or wrong or anything, it's just a process, it's an algorithm. We thought the dinosaurs went completely extinct until we found them all around us. The one branch that survived is, of course,
Chicken.
chicken is one example. They're birds. All birds are dinosaurs.
Oh yeah.
Crocodiles are not necessarily dinosaurs. They're a different one. And sharks are much, much older than dinosaurs. Sharks are older than trees.
Yeah.
Trees evolved after sharks.
Megalodon.
Dinosaurs, one particular branch that survived is the birds. If we were to remake Jurassic Park, we would give them all feathers. If you've ever watched a chicken or any other bird feeding or hunting for prey, that would be a scary process if it was larger than you. They're very quick, fast, and fairly remorseless. Imagine a feathered dinosaur with teeth.
Train raptors.
That would not be a pleasant experience for humans. Hmm?
No, I just
I
said.
said velociraptor. Like, you train
Velociraptor.
raptors.
Okay, Julian, your question.
Like, are tigers like the same as a cat?
They're not the
Like
same.
descendants?
They're more
Are cats
closely
descendants?
they're more closely related to a cat than say a wolf is, but they're both within the same feline group.
Do cats?
Lions and tigers can interbreed. They're considered different species because they normally don't, but you can get ligers and tyons, for example. Yes.
So in that picture, there's like 2 different types of dinosaurs. So did the one there, like the one on 2 legs,
Mm-hmm.
did that go on to be like?
Oh no, I just showed an artist depiction of our old view of dinosaurs without feathers. And this is probably the reason the cross is there, because they didn't look like that. They didn't look.
Yeah.
The old idea was that they were just an evolved form of reptile, but the reptile group gave birth to dinosaurs, and dinosaurs gave birth to birds. They're not reptiles. They're a different group. In the same way, Anders was saying, did dogs evolve from wolves or wolves from dogs? And well, dogs evolved from wolves. But they're both still around. And there are still reptiles around, but there's also birds. Birds have a more evolved heart than humans. They have a better pumping chamber. It's better designed, been around and working a lot longer. But they probably didn't look like that. More of them looked like that.
So how do you know?
They found feather impressions in fossils. And it took a while, because feathers, as you can imagine, don't fossilize as well as bones do. And so it took a while to figure that out, but they started finding more and more and more of them. Probably start out, given that they had a common ancestor with reptiles, feathers are a really good temperature regulator, keep you warm. If you ever had a reptile for a pet, you know that they do not move fast if it is cold. They don't warm up their blood. So that would have been a helpful temperature regulator. They did eventually evolve the ability to be more warm-blooded. Some groups, like birds are, those are the dinosaurs that continued, but they're not mammals. They are a completely different type of species. And a lot of them would have had feathers. And about the point the feathers become useful for flight is about the length that they become not useful for warmth. So if you grow feathers, you keep warm. If you grow more feathers, you keep warmer. If you keep growing, you eventually hit a limit. Like you don't get any warmer. You have enough feathers. But right about that point is when they start becoming useful for flight. They'll slow your descent. So anything that evolved the maximum amount of feathers for warmth, if it fell at a tree and it was small enough, probably slowed its descent. And just like flying chipmunks, they just have flaps of skin. Well, if you're a chipmunk and you fall out of a tree, you just had a little bit of skin. Well, you can fall out of a tree slightly higher, and you'll survive a bit more. And you can see how flying squirrels would evolve, because anything that would have even more skin would be able to glide farther.
Also, this thing, you know Mark Rober?
Yep.
So you know how to do that whole squirrel part?
The squirrel, yeah. When he wants to see how clever squirrels are.
He showed a video of apparently squirrels, they can't, if they fall from really high up, they still don't die.
Depending on your body size weight ratio, like a mouse can fall an infinite amount of length on planet Earth with air, and it won't die. It'll just bounce and walk away. It doesn't reach an escape velocity not an escape velocity. It doesn't reach a terminal velocity that's least lethal. So a mouse will bounce. Larger rodents may as well, depending on their size. And then you get to like dog and cat. They will hurt themselves, break bones. They might die, and a horse will go splat because their mass is so big. They get fast enough that they just.
Oh yeah, why don't we like, are there people breeding like bald eagles to make them really big so we can like
Ride 'em.
have dragons?
Um,
Like ride them around.
I don't know of someone, and I
It's a good
think
idea.
future entrepreneurial idea.
Oh.
I know. I feel like that would be really cool.
That will never pay into your
Yeah, I don't know about that. I feel like that
We
could-
always want a few crazy people doing something amazing, because every once in a while it works.
Yeah.
Someday I want to ride a T-Rex.
It's not
Little reins.
So do I.
We could do it for
Never
this
gonna
Be a CRISPR's coming.
That's true.
Did you even give yourself
Maybe everyone else will be my T-Rex. Well, if you change all your genes to be a
What if I
T-Rex.
make a bunch of clones and like move
Wait,
Anyway.
you-
Gentlemen, how did Darwin know about, in terms of natural selection, he didn't invent the process of selecting for traits. That is something he borrowed from animal breeding. At the time, it was really popular to breed pigeons. There was the wild rock dove, where all pigeons are descended, and it was, you would have pigeon shows in the same way we have dog and cat shows, and people would breed them for their color and their plumage and their ability to like fly long distances, the ability to remember where they came from and come back. The passenger pigeon, especially, that was used to carry messages sometimes in times of conflict. And so there was competitions for how good your breeding was. And remember that Darwin was born fairly wealthy. He had pigeon breeding as a hobby. You know, hey, I have got my pigeons here, and then they're going to place in first place. It's got red plumage, you know. Like it's a very uppity thing to be doing. But also, people who didn't have much money loved pigeon breeding. Famously in New York, lots of people would have little pigeon huts on top of the buildings, and they would breed pigeons. They provided food, something to do in companionship. And famously, this is why all our cities have all these flying rats flying around and pooping all over the place. Because all of a sudden, weirdly, historically, people just lost interest in pigeon breeding. What did they do with the pigeons? They just released them. And that's why we got all the wild pigeons. Those aren't really, I mean, they're wild. They're breeding wild. They're adapting to their environment. But they're starting to be considered pigeons that are not wild. They're not like a dove. They're a city pigeon. They are evolving to adapt to eating garbage and pooping on people's heads. That's where they fit in. That's what they do. That's what they know. That's where they build their nests. They're not bothered by noise. They're a little bit more resistant to pollution. And that's where they came from. They just really, hardly anybody breeds pigeons anymore. But it used to be a huge thing. So Darwin is breeding pigeons. He's wealthy. He enjoys the hobby. It's something you do. It's exciting. Oh, look at my pigeons. Mrs. Ganlison will not have nearly as good a one as I do. And there's hundreds of different types. They race them. And so he intimately understands in the way any farmer would. You identify traits you like, and you breed for that traits. You have a cow, and you have a dairy farm. For a long time, farmers have been going, you know what? That cow, Betsy Ann, and what's a good name? Mabel, that's a good name for a cow. They give the most milk. So I'm going to take all the calves from those cows. And this particular bull, all its offspring always seem to give good milk, so I'm going to do it. And the other ones that don't get, well, we're not going to keep their babies. Their babies are going to go to the freezer. So there's a process of evolution called artificial selection that's going on there. Farmers and breeders have been doing this for a long time. So the concept of traits changing wasn't new. What was new was saying that the environment was doing it. And that was weird, because it had always been assumed that you needed a farmer or a breeder to do the selecting. But Darwin realized, and Wallace, The environment itself selects. If you don't have a thick enough coat for the winter, you die. And you don't leave children. That is a selection process as much as any farmer identifying an unlovely coat. And that is why it was such a huge deal. Because it also implied that humans might be a product of this. Yes?
Are there any other examples of species artificially resulting in artificially breeding another species other than humans?
The aphids, I believe, and ants. There's an ant species that will capture aphids. Will even, I believe they've seen evidence that they try and keep them around and get new aphids from it. And there might be aphids that seem more adapted to being, because they get fed by the ants, and then they give off nectar, and then the ants collect the nectar. So they literally farm aphids. I'm not sure if they have adapted to it, but in terms of species adapting to each other, bees and flowers are the most common example. The flowers are designed to attract a bee. They're the right size. The bee is designed to pick up the flower's pollen, and the flower's producing extra nectar for the bee. And so it is a symbiotic, co-evolutionary relationship. A famous example is a flower that was discovered that had a stem that was like 2 or 3 inches long, and no bee could get down it. And why do flowers exist? Well, at the time, flowers exist because they look pretty to humans. But Darwin predicted there will be an animal that will have a tongue or a tail or something that could fit all the way down the flower, because the flower wouldn't evolve it otherwise. And eventually we found a bat with a tongue that long that feeds on the flower at night and gets the nectar, and that's how it spreads its pollen, and so they're adapted to each other.
There's also the bird that like cleans the crocodile's teeth.
Mm.
Right?
There's a lot of symbiotic relationships where they have evolved sort of a partnership. And the mitochondria in your cells likely came about as a similar, like the mitochondria is not related to you. You don't code for it. It codes for itself.
Powerhouse.
But yeah, powers the cell. An example is here. I've pre-selected the birds. Because here's the later generation. We look at these. You're a breeder, and you're like, oh, these birds have long necks, and they're a little darker. I like those birds. I'm going to put them together in a room, a little soft music, candlelight dinner, see what happens. Look at their children. I take their children, this one and that one, a little darker, a little longer neck. Like those, put them in a dark room. Brother and sister, we won't talk about that. And then, all with long necks. Now, if you're a breeder, we know from genetics that we've just increased the chances of them having a recessive disease because we're breeding brothers and sisters together. Why does that not matter to a breeder?
Because
Yeah?
It's fine if they die off.
Yeah, it's fine if they die. Oh, look, of the litter of 8, 6 of them are sickly. Just kill those. But we got 2 good ones, and now the trait's coming through. So you get rid of those bad traits by killing them off, and just keep going until you have a stable trait, and you start breeding it out when you have enough of them into other ones. Julian, sitting up. Now, if you keep doing this, this is no longer selected by nature to survive. It's selected by humans to look good. If you keep doing this, maybe the pigeon gets so dark that it absorbs so much sunlight, it gets too hot, it's more prone to heat sickness. Or the neck gets so long it can't eat properly. Because its survival no longer depends on its ability to get food. Its survival depends on the human liking it. And then you can get weird traits. Traits like the pug. The pug is missing.
No, the pug is like a thing. That makes him like.
The pug is missing its eye socket. We have bred the eye socket out of the pug. And famously, they can get, their eyes can pop out, and you have to push it back in. That is not a fault of the pug. You don't have a bad one. You have breeders who liked it looking a certain way, so they bred the health out of it. They are missing part of their eye socket now, and the eyes don't fit properly because they wanted a certain look, and it's literally missing. If we look at some other dogs, this is a pug from the 1880s. Pugs now, missing their eye socket, you can see, looks like a normal dog. It has a snout, it's just a small dog. And people are like, what defines a pug? Having a little shorter snout. So we bred the snout right back into its head to the point that the eye socket partially disappeared, and it also has breathing problems because its nose isn't long enough. So we've created something that we like the looks of for a pet, but we're kind of torturing it because everyone that's born is not adapted to survive. It's adapted to look cute to humans. We have other examples. Where'd it go? There was a whole picture. Is it underneath this?
What was the picture of?
Next
A
slide.
bunch of dogs.
I want to see that.
Oh, there it is. Order, bring to front, make big. This is a pit bull. The original pit bull had a slight uptick on its nose. We bred it to be really extreme, gives it a few breathing problems, not as bad as the ones where we bred their nose away, but there are some conformation requirements for a pit bull that actually makes them a little bit unhealthy now that we bred it out. Any of you owned a German Shepherd before and had one as a pet? Does it have hip problems?
I don't know.
Yeah, because when you take the German Shepherd, and what they liked about it, because it's a German guard dog, originally a shepherd, but then became bred as a guard dog and a military dog. And they liked when it slightly sloped down because it looked fast. And so we bred not for being fast, but for the sloping down. And now we get this nice clean line. That means we bred the hips out of it. Their hips are no good, and they're always that way because we bred it that way. Why did we do that? Because somebody, as breeders, liked the way it looked. That's it. Humans did that. Famously, the British Bulldog, guard dog, much like the German Shepherd, squat, round, very difficult to knock off his feet, great guard dog. Started being adopted by little old English ladies who needed a dog for the house, but little old English ladies can't handle an angry, bad temperament dog. Fine for the junkyard, not so good for your house. So they started selecting for temperament. Most British Bulldogs now have a fantastic, lovely temperament. They're great for the little ladies. They also it has cute little folds, a few. Like they just make the face cute. So now they're so big, many of them can't see. They're functionally blind, like their eyes work, but the folds are so big they can't see past them. They need surgery to be able to see, and we bred them that way. And so it is very fast. Once you start selecting for traits, those genes spread in a population very, very quickly. You're also probably affecting more than one gene. Because there's a gene, maybe, that made some folding, but there's other genes that can contribute to that process, and you're adapting all of those. And concentrating them into a single animal because that animal just happens to be more successful. It has them. Those are the ones that survive. Those are the ones that get passed on. There is a movement to breed back some regular dog features. It is unfortunate. Breeding tends to be unscientific in how it views breeding in that it doesn't look at genetics. It looks at an older theory. It often talks about blood. Like you can be 50% Husky and 50% British Bulldog, say. That's nonsense. It's 98% dog. Like there is no 50, like the genes that control a particular are very small in number. We are famously 98.5% chimpanzee. That's how close all of our genes are because it's a very small amount that actually distinguishes us. If we can give up the idea of the 50% of each kind and just say, let's tweak back some of the genes. It's still a German Shepherd, but let's give it some hips. We could actually fix a lot of these things. Yeah.
Like you know, like the teacup animals, like the really small.
The
ones?
really tiny ones, yeah.
Is that how? Do they like breed it?
Yeah, they just breed it to be small.
Because those are like hand size.
Mm-hmm. Or they starve
Very
it
cute.
to make sure
They're very
it stunts its growth. Like
I don't see
it's not always breeding.
like
Very,
Have any of you ever been in a place
very good.
where for Easter, which is coming up, you can buy little tiny baby chickens and they're like blue and orange and red? Don't buy them.
They dye it.
Yeah, they inject the dye into the egg. So it's born with the dye in it. It's not bred that way. It's a fairly not so great process in terms of some of them dying, get infections, and then most people don't take care of them. You buy them for Easter and then you throw them away afterwards. And we don't necessarily want to do that to our poor animal friends.
So we were talking about breeding like traits out of dogs. But what if you bred a dog that was like humongous?
Yeah,
Is that like possible?
oh yeah,
There
have
is
you not,
already-
the Tibetan, I think it's the Tibetan mountain dog or something?
Like twice as big as like that dog.
Oh
What
yeah,
do I do with the eagles? It's like a truck.
Yeah, like a dog. You like rad dogs.
I think it's the
Yes, you
Tibetan,
know, it's like a dog.
the Tibetan Mastiff?
No. Oh.
Ooh, I know.
Those ones are big. There's one that's bigger though.
You could ride that.
Chinese Tibetan Mastiff?
Yes, you could.
I feel like you two.
They're also
You can
very
ride that.
expensive.
There's one that's
Um,
bigger.
I wanted to get one just because it was big. I'm like, oh, that fit me.
Saint Bernard.
Largest dog, largest dog breed. English Mastiff. I didn't know that.
160.
Ooh, I know the
30.
Ooh.
Have you seen the big
Now, any of you, which I love springtime. People go outside, they enjoy. They'll be out there late on a Saturday night before signing. It's dark, and they're like on the field, enjoying themselves. And Mr. Snow's dog can smell them a mile away and comes running up to say hello and prounces all over them. Hilarious as you hear the screams from the field.
This is a
Um,
good kid.
One of the things, though, if you breed for a large dog, remember, dogs are descended from wolves. Everything else isn't necessarily evolving with it to survive that size, because the key attribute isn't survival. The key attribute is the human likes the way you look. And so large dog breeds, like what type of dog breed is Mr. Stones? Great Dane. They are they have very short lives. Their heart is too small for their body. It wears out too fast. They have all sorts of arthritis problems because of their large frame and size and all the pressure on all their joints. It is hard on them being that big. It's hard on humans being that big. Like as 5, if I straighten.
As a 6'2"
My
guy,
heart will
45.
give out sooner. My joints have more wear and tear. If you are small and compact, you are far more likely to survive into old age than I will. Good luck to you. On the other hand, you also might be hit by a bus tomorrow. So you never know. Not that I'm saying you should be. Tomorrow's travel day. You
Yeah.
don't get in front of buses. Be particularly wary of buses tomorrow. Yes.
What? How old did they live for?
I don't know. I'd have to look them up. I don't know anything more about them. The Great Dane, I know a little bit more. By the way, if you ever get a large dog, buy health insurance for the dog, because they tend to undercharge the large dogs because it all kind of becomes the same price. But your large dog is going to have health problems. If you get health insurance for the dog, then you can afford to take them to the vet. Because in Canada, we don't have universal health coverage for dogs. You can't show up to the hospital and like, my chihuahuas, I'm sick. Unless you live on a farm, in which case you just let the dog go and get a new one.
Yeah,
They're not a
they're-
pet.
you said you think they're cute.
They're part of the farm. Okay, last one. Almost the last one. There was a question over. No? Jill? Focus. That's from the lab. You stole that. Where did you get that from then? And where's the spring?
I don't know, in my bag. I just found these.
Yeah, that's from the lab the other day.
I don't know about that.
Hey,
Mm.
you own one. You own one. of
See
those.
me after.
Okay.
I might put you in charge of making up the assassin game then. Involves writing down a lot of these. Okay,
That game's. I love that game.
That was not tough last year.
we didn't do it last year. What it required for
I
me,
didn't die.
But we got Swiss cheese by me.
Julian. The first assassin game ever on campus was run by Alex House, traditionally. It was started by Ms. Mays. When I joined, I had played it in university. Slightly different version than we play here. I was like, that's cool. So Privet started playing. My rule is the boys have to show up and be willing to go buy some pins. I'll give them their money back. They just give me the receipt. And then label names on it. And then I'll set up the list and we play it. And nobody volunteered to do that last year. Because it's work. I'm not going to write all the names on. But if someone else does that,
Hey,
totally.
what's the
Play assassin anytime.
I'll
Make it
sign up.
easy. Pardon?
What is the assassin game?
The assassin game is when you have the name of a person It's usually written on here, and that's the person you have to assassinate. And you assassinate them by attaching a clothespin to any piece of clothing that they're wearing. They put on the backpack, that counts. In Privet House, you're not allowed to tackle. In Hope House, as far as I can tell, you can do anything you like. But in Privet, if you allow people to tackle and do other things, you will die because someone will put your head through a thing because people will just go a little too fast. Do not play. Riley, shut your ears. Do not play with Ms. Hedquist. Ever. She will kill you. Her reflexes are fast, and she will not think before she pushes you down the stairs.
Let's go.
Yeah, I could get.
Her instincts, I believe now she doesn't play anymore because too many accidents and bodies. Yes.
So I have two things to say. First, I think I could get a clothespin on Miss Hedquist. And also,
Oh, it's not a matter of getting one on her. It's a matter of surviving the
no,
encounter.
He is running from Miss Edquist.
Yeah, go.
Also,
We can do. Me and Gigi can run the thing.
Oh, sure. See me after break. We'll set it up. That'd be awesome. I'd like some leadership.
Well, there's also another version of the assassin's gun with if there's a water gun and you have to.
Yeah.
splash it around.
We do this because we don't want people around campus running around with guns. That can lead to all sorts of accidental mistakes. The version I played didn't have pins. I played with paper. So what you would do is you'd take a piece of paper and you'd write bomb on it and you'd put it in their textbook. And when they opened their textbook and they saw bomb, that meant you were killed by the bomb. You would write poison on a piece of paper and put it under the cafeteria tray. If they ate from it while it was on it, they were poisoned. But if they inspected their tray first and found it, they weren't. So you're constantly looking at everything. So it was an assassin game. But it comes from the same. I have a rule book of all the different variations that someone once made. Yes.
Now we played in Boy Scouts with you get a name and a type and a place or time.
Yeah.
And then, for instance, you had to do with 2 plates during the night in their sleeping bag.
Ooh.
For instance, like, or like in the rain with an umbrella or whatever. That's how we got. I got killed with 3 plates.
11:45. I'm sorry. I just had to look up time. I'm going to stop there because I want you to have at least half an hour for this next section. And I'm going to make it a little shorter because I was hoping you'd have a bit more time. Does everybody have these notes?
Oh,
Get them out. I will go like this because I have to. Whoop, it just happened. There we go. Because I have to go to classroom.google.com to put up your assignment. We're block C.
Worth a lot of points.
We are Thursday the 13th.
Do good on it. We all get extended.
Did that say February?
Ungraded. No grades, no.
I don't grade you on Google Classroom, if you've noticed. I find the Google Classroom grading system to be a little weird. 1 second. And there's the Reddit. Okay. Everybody have that down?
no. Wait, in.
Can you scroll down?
Oh, in survival.
It's like the bird.
Oh, no, we're not doing that.
Oh.
Right here. Just, we're stopping here. Because I want you to have enough time. And I'm already going to eliminate a part of the assignment. Just to make sure, because I wanted you to have 45 minutes. We only have a little less than half an hour. So, good to go?
No,
Go.
Done.
Go. Done?
I'm just gonna say I'm done.
Yes, you're still
I
right.
didn't know that.
Sorry, I would take a look. I can copy her.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. You have your lab sheets. They should help you if you've written down answers to the questions. That will help you inform your discussion. This is a quote from the Lab Style Guide that is on your Google Classroom. A discussion is the result of a reflective process that compares the analysis to the theory and the hypothesis. The discussion includes a description of experimental errors and their consequences and may suggest further investigation. You're going to get your lab book. There's, at minimum, there's two things you have to mention. You have to mention a point of error that could affect your results. There is, if you look at all the classes, in 2 of the classes, there is a group whose data should not have been included. It is included, and it should not be. That is a point of error. There's also many other points of error that you could include. Julian, Andrews. Second, you need to connect the lab and what you did in the results to the theory. We're not going to do the collecting. I was going to have you redo a bar graph. I'm not going to do that. So, talking about one of these would be connecting it to the theory. Talking about sources of error is the other thing you need to do. Here are more and different types of things you can put into your discussion about your results and thinking about the lab. Your write-up should be clear and thoughtful. If you forgot to put in a table of contents, and that was one of the criticisms from last time, you should fix that this time. All of the lab books are over there. I'll help hand them out. You're doing this in your lab book. Put the page number at the bottom of the page, name, title, date, and the title of the lab, and just go straight into the discussion. This paragraph form, no experimental procedure, no anything else, no data in the, all I want there is your discussion. And then you hand it in before you go with your lab. While you're looking or handing us. Riley?
Someone told me
Like,
Ernie?
let's
Julian?
use the information books.
Jojo?
You can use the information books.
Jennifer?
Also,
Brad.
it'll be English.
I called your name. Lucas?
There's so many toys.
Also, I
Graham.
don't like fuck.
Julian C. Noah?
What?
Oh, Julian C's not here.
I don't what?
Matthew? Violet? Giavi? Jessica? Zach? Jamie? What do we got? Grayson? Aiden?
It looks pretty
A
nice.
bunch of things. Jessica?
Bro, you guys forgot my black pen.
Hey, it'll be nice for Rob things to happen.
And Jaden?
What black pen?
Find yours.
Where's this?
Okay.
Is that anything else?
Anders?
Hey, Anders.
And
Anders.
Bro.
Liam?
He doesn't have it.
I like honestly, I would not lie to you.
Yeah.
Who do you think I am?
When I'm reading my stuff,
I called him.
I want to place it. It's wrong.
Oh, they do.
Wait, this
I don't
blue.
get.
Who? Oh, then use someone else and take a look at it. The class that is also linked on the very last. And you have
I didn't do it.
So you say I use someone
Wait,
else.
you didn't do the Battle of the Beaks?
What?
You didn't do the Battle of the Beaks.
Are you some kind of cheater?
Are you some kind of cheat? Did you fudge your stats?
Anders.
No.
What's
Did
up?
someone really
Why are you doing that thing?
cheater?
I don't know what you want.
Liam, I don't have it.
I didn't call your name.
Wait, what do you call that?
No, did I?
Looks like this.
Where's your lab book?
Liam, show me the
Now I'm gonna take a look. I remember marking yours. Julian, working, lab.
He was pressing me into work.
Andrew?
Yes.
So tell me to work, kids work.
I'm at work. This is my job.
Dude, do I write the results of my book?
Yes, everything is in your lab book, that's where you're doing it.
I like my booklets.
No, it's Lilia.
This is page 12.
Because all of them were put back in there.
I'm gonna sharpen my pencil. Do you want your sharpen, Julian?
We need to
These are brand new ones.
I need a pen.
Discussion.
Hey, do it.
Can you give the pen back to me?
What?
Man.
Ask if we see what it looks like so I can find it.
I'm going to help that
Not
first.
doing Jack.
I want to see what it is.
Julian doesn't even have a pen.
Liam, can I see what it looks like?
Yeah, you're funny, bro.
Start, I don't want to keep you
Yeah,
up.
you're a funny guy.
If you don't have it, and I have it somewhere, just say temporary lab book. You
Liam,
don't need
make
to
that
fix anything, leave one page for table of contents,
Okay.
and then we'll see. Hmm? Apparently not. Apparently, oh, hold it.
I'll crack on the screenshot.
Thank you. Ooh.
Under this chair, he was hiding it.
Hmm.
do I
like it.
Sorry.
You don't have to answer every
Is he a
question.
waste man?
You have to answer at least one, because it's that half an hour you get to write a paragraph at the end of class. So you can't do it. That's huge. So at least one thing on error, and one thing relating it to the topics in class about evolution. Those are all just prompts to help you think of something. If you want to look, if you want examples of error, I used to do a pollination simulation thing. I don't do it anymore, but it involved people in the class being pollinators. So in that lab, students would talk about human dexterity. Like if there was a group that was just really good at pollinating, they would have an advantage that had nothing to do with how I set up the lab. Some student behavior would happen. If they really liked the color red, they would pollinate in a weird way because of the way I color-coded things, and then that would affect the lab results, and that was actually a source of error. If I set it up wrong, and I didn't give everybody equal distance access, this one had more of a measurement amount, not a counting amount, and so you could talk about measurement error, a lack of true randomness. In nature, a bee may visit a particular flower in a random way, but the way a class is set up or the way students do things, they may follow a pattern. Like it may be that they go and pollinate only with their friends, which would affect the entire lab. So some sort of error that would affect our lab results to not be the mimic of nature that we want it to be. And then any other point that relates it
What's the date?
to what we've been discussing in class about evolution. So you can talk about beaks. So you can connect it to structural adaptations, behavioral processes. You can look just at further things, like not things we did in the lab, but how could we improve the lab and how does it relate to the environment in terms of evolution. And so all of the things other than sources of errors would meet that point. Okay? And I've just given you a lot because, of course, 2 is the minimum. If you discuss more, that'd be great. Sure.
Sorry, is it a paragraph or a point form?
Paragraph. It's a discussion. You can write 2 paragraphs, but I'm only expecting 8 paragraphs.
How many words is it?
Oh, the error and things. If it helps, you can divide it up into 2 those way. But 1 paragraph to discuss.
Maybe lose 2, bang it up for you right now.
Paragraph is 30 words and above. One you want.
Or 1 in aggregate.
Pardon? It's discussion. You're only doing discussion. Is this yours or is this James? Not yours. No, this is James. Lester! It was in there. It was just stuck. It was just stuck in someone else's.
Mr. Newfeld.
I blame you entirely for not finding it.
So what am I supposed to write? Like about what happened in the beak thing?
A discussion is a result of a reflective process that compares the analysis to the theory. So you have the analysis in the lab that you did and the questions in front of you and your answers. You can use that to write a discussion. You were looking at the theory, like, because this was testing an aspect of evolution, and you needed a discussion of experimental error. So I'm looking for 1 connection of the lab to theory and 1 point of error. These are all ideas that you could write about. You don't have to do them all, but you need at least 1 possibility of error. So 1 thing from 2, and then 1 thing from, I don't know why it starts counting at 2, but this should be 1. You need 1 thing for, you could talk about results versus hypothesis. You could talk about adaptation and selection. You could talk about the implications of the lab, like what your results were and what that might imply in the real world. Any one of those would fit the 1 thing, 1 connection of lab to theory. So this is just to give you lots of sources and ideas. So just pick one.
So you pick one idea.
Yeah, or your own unique one. That's just that was a quickly generated list by me from the lab, based on past points. You are totally allowed to make up your own. You may think, actually, I think this. Just like with an English teacher, if you write about something new, it is always very impressive.
Was that all the tweezers was off the floor.
You would not believe how tired English teachers get.
Tweezers were
Of reading
best.
about, what was it, Mr. Digby used to say? Petty problems of
Explain
principles.
why it was the best.
Peccadillos.
And why it did well.
Thank you, Julian Gigi. I restored it to function after Julian Chan's
Mishaps.
Julian.
At least, however, you didn't throw it away.
See?
When you're done, hand it in with your lab tucked inside.
So I'm gonna write.
Newf, are you a Dusty Utes?
Anderson. And Julian, you need to write. You have about 15 minutes.
I've written.
I'm right.
Yeah, you know what he did?
No, no, stop describing writing. No, no.
He's doing it in person.
Yeah, I know. And what are you supposed to do to him?
Pencil.
Yeah, just let him make his own mistakes.
Exactly.
I was being bad.
I don't have a pen. I'm just gonna write in pencil. I don't really mind.
You wanna fail?
Anders, don't worry about it.
I'm a compassionate man.
So we're ignoring the point of error. That's correct.
Hmm?
You ignore the point of error.
No.
It's not honest.
No, you can still use your overall class data.
The
I was
fast
really going to
clenching.
combine all
Wait,
three
I don't know what
classes.
I'm supposed to call like the tweezers going together.
So all, you ignore all the stuff that's crossed out.
Let's go.
You use your original
Fast.
map.
I'm just thinking to say clenching.
Fast clenching dream juju.
You brought this, right?
Yeah.
And you made a
This
graph.
was because of the fast.
And you've got some
clenching and light.
conclusions. You're using this. Yeah, so you're writing discussion based on the results you already have. I'm not making you reanalyze it. One class was a little further than the others and they made it. They're going to do more of the, make another graph, but our class a little further behind, so I'm skipping one section. It won't affect the marks between classes.
We don't like choose one of them, right?
Hmm?
Are we gonna choose one?
You need at least one source of error to talk about. It doesn't have to be one of these, but it can be something. And then you need something else from one of the other things.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.